Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I got a short review because it's a short book. I'm going to be talking about Dreadlocks by Neal Shusterman. This is another book for the class that I'm currently taking, teaching young adult literature. I decided to do this book because I am familiar with Neal Shusterman's works. I've read Scythe. Well, part of that series, I read the first two books. I never finished it, even though I enjoyed it. And then I read his Unwind series. Well, book one, and then when it was a standalone, and then I read book two, didn't really enjoy where it was going, so I stopped after that one. But even though maybe I'm not like the biggest Neal Shusterman fan, I did have enough faith and enough trust in him because of his work in the past that, maybe I would enjoy this book. Again, with this class, I'm tasked with reading 4 or 5 young adult books. It's not a genre that I read that often, but I've enjoyed it so far. I am a little behind on recording, but I am only about 50 pages left to go with my final book that I'm currently reading. So I should get like all 3 of these last videos out within the next couple weeks because I don't have a choice. They're due. But yeah. So Dreadlocks, show it again. Kind of okay cover. Definitely from the early 2000s. Dreadlocks is one of Neal Shusterman's first novels that he published. You can tell immediately that's going to be a little bit of a spoiler for my review. But I selected it because it fit the criteria of one of the boxes of like a retelling, an adaptation. It is part of his Dark Fusions, I don't want to say series because they're all standalone books, but I guess that's an okay umbrella term. The Dark Fusions series, or I guess capstone that he wrote, was this idea that he would take different fairy tales and different different stories and kind of fuse them together in a modern setting. And Dreadlocks is a retelling of, I believe, Goldilocks and Three Bears plus Medusa. Again, just showing off the cover, clearly Medusa inspired. So if you like Greek mythology, that is something that you might pick up on pretty much immediately. I want to go ahead and start off with what I liked about the book because there's only one thing I liked about the book. Sorry. And it was the idea. I always think, when I'm thinking about what my students really enjoy, a lot of them do love Percy Jackson still. They especially love it after the series that was released on Disney Plus. They fell in love with this show. So I'm always looking for different Greek retellings, different things with myths involved because, again, my students love it. I want to make my class relevant to their enjoyment and what they like reading, watching. But really the idea was the only thing I liked. I did just say it was a mashup of Goldilocks and Three Bears plus Medusa, but I think you could have thrown away the 3 Goldilocks in inspiration because that only makes an appearance like at the very beginning, and Medusa's story is really the rest. But what is it about besides just being a mashup of those two those two stories? Sorry, I'm still sick. I have to remind myself I'm reading from the back because I finished this book like 3 weeks ago and it's not really sticking in my mind. But it is about a young 15-year-old boy named, I believe, Parker, who is experiencing life, just kind of going about his day-to-day life, not really making a lot of friends, not really making much of an impact on, at his school, in his community, or even with his family. And then one day, a new girl moves in next door, and her name is Tara. And she has something very strange about her. She breaks into their home, tries out all their beds and all their food. That's the Goldilocks inspiration. And he becomes sort of friends with her after that. Really, he becomes obsessed with her. And he begins to realize that pretty much everyone at his school, even his siblings, also become obsessed with her because she has the ability to hold people captivated. Unfortunately for Parker and the rest of the town, she also has the power to essentially drain people of their life force and turn them into stone-like creatures, hence the Medusa inspiration. Again, that idea sounds wonderful. Unfortunately, I hate saying this because, one day I do want to write as well, but you can easily tell that this is an early novel from Shusterman because though it's a great idea, the idea is half-baked and it really doesn't carry much else throughout the book. It's a very short book, and this is going to be one of my big complaints. It's a very short book. I think 162 pages, and the text, the font is pretty big. It could have been a short story. I think this might have been a lot better as a short story because the characters are not fleshed out. The plot itself is kind of meandering and it kind of repeats itself over and over. It's either better as a short story or he needed to add 100 pages or so because the length is awful. It's not short enough. It's also not long enough. I have no other way of saying that. He needed to go in a different direction, either as a short story or actually pad it out more, just to flesh out the characters. Because either way, it didn't really hit the mark at all. Another thing that I strongly disliked was this idea of this theme that Tara comes into this town and provides terror, right? Because people are too attached to their material things. They're too spoiled. They don't really like the world anymore. They are obsessed with things, and they're obsessed with their wealth. That's why she comes. She says that pretty early on, right? But I never felt like that was actually the case. I looked for evidence of Parker, our main character, being obsessed with material things and being obsessed with wealth, but Shusterman just says it, and he doesn't provide any evidence. So I thought that was also pretty half-baked as well. Like, we got this, he had this idea, let's talk about how people are, again, too obsessed with things. That's why they're bad. That's why they're becoming lifeless and stone creatures, because Tara's able to pick up on that, and she's able to make them less human. It doesn't do anything in this book, sadly. There's no evidence of it. I think the only time where I might see evidence is from Parker's older brother, but again, none of the characters are fleshed out, so what's the point with that? Speaking of characters, another big thing that I strongly disliked were the two main characters of Parker and Tara. Parker is just obsessed with her the entire short novel, and Tara is just annoying. It was definitely like, I said this, I think, to one of my classmates with another book that we were reading, and it just feels like it was this early 2000s, manic pixie girl idea that a lot of authors chose to do and a lot of movies chose to do, and it just doesn't do anything for me anymore. It was just very, I'm going to say what my students now say, it was very cringe. She was just wild and crazy and mysterious throughout the book, and that was really it. That was her character. A great disappointment. I do try to give the books grades, and this is going to be the first F read. I do not recommend this book to anyone, which is unfortunate, because again, I do enjoy some Neal Shusterman stories. I was tempted to let one of my students read this because they saw me reading it, but again, I didn't enjoy it. He might, but I think this is so bad that if I gave it to him, it would turn him off of reading for a little bit. So that's unfortunate. An F read for me. But the next book that I review, again, I'm already done. I'm ahead with my reading, behind on recording. My next review should be a lot better. I read another Jeff Zenter book. But that's all I got. Hopefully y'all read better books than me. Or if you do read Neal Shusterman books, hopefully you read the good ones. Or if you actually enjoyed Dreadlocks, please let me know what I missed, because I would gladly take any criticism of this review. And hopefully you point out something that maybe I missed while reading it. But that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, do whatever. Peace.